Salve, mihi nomen est bestia. My DMA topic is the morphophonological patterns of infinitives in Latin. First of all, what do I mean by that? Morphophonology is the combo of phonology and morphology. Phonology is the study of rules for sounds in language. For example, look at these nonsense words. Lat is not a possible English word because English words can't start with on. On the other hand, zeef is entirely possible. It follows all of English's sound rules. Morphology is the study of how the most basic elements of language fit together. For this presentation, I'm going to be going over a couple of reasons why fere has an extra R, why posse has two S's, and why infinitives are the way they are. I will talk about where different patterns came from, so I need to talk about the predecessors to Latin. All of the Indo-European languages come from one mother language called Proto-Indo-European, often just shortened down to PIE. You can see Latin down there in the bottom with all the italic languages. Here's a map displaying where each branch of the Indo-European languages are geographically. The exact origin of Proto-Indo-European is unknown, but it's generally thought that it spread from Eastern Europe. There's no physical record of Proto-Indo-European, but we're able to reconstruct it using similarities between the Indo-European languages. For example, look at the word meaning tooth in all of these different Indo-European languages. Take my pronunciation with a bit of a grain of salt. Spanish, diente, Italian, dente, French, dent, and Portuguese, dente. All of them begin with D, so we can infer their ancestor probably started with a D. All of them have an E, except for Spanish. In Spanish, it's a common process for an E to shift into an IE. We can also infer the ancestor had an E there. All include NT. There's an E at the end of Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, so it's likely their ancestor also had an E. Using all of these observations, we can infer their ancestor, Proto-Indo-European's word for tooth was dente, or something similar to that. This process is called comparative reconstruction. Since this is a reconstruction, we have to include an asterisk in front of it. Alright, so we've introduced the comparative method of reconstruction, but what does that mean for posse? Philip Baldi, a professor at Penn State and author of The Foundations of Latin, stated the form se, or the suffix, is directly recoverable in the Latin infinitive forms such as esse, to be, posse, to be able, derived from potse, and isse, to eat, derived from edse. Here, the little caret symbol means derived from. Okay, so we've got the suffix se, but that doesn't look like our regular infinitive ending, re. Now we get into the phonetic process called assimilation. In this case, contact assimilation, where two sounds next to each other become more similar to increase the ease of articulation. In English, a great example of this is the sentence have to. Although it's written with a V, if you say it out loud, you usually pronounce it have to. A little trick that I learned is for these patterns relating to ease of articulation, if you repeat them out loud 10 times fast, listening to the sound produced, you can actually hear the change. Have to, have to, have to, have to, have to, have to, have to. Look at the example from before. If I repeat the Proto-Indo-European word potse out loud, you can hear how that shift appears. Potse, 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 posse, posse, posse. On the more technical side, there are two main ways that sounds change in assimilation. Complete assimilation is where the weaker phoneme is completely replaced by the stronger phoneme. like in Malay, derived from Malse. Then there is partial assimilation, where one sound takes on a feature of the other, becoming more like it. The most common way that this happens is change in place of articulation, which is the place where your tongue moves to make the sound. For example, the in is pronounced at the alveolar ridge, right behind your teeth. It turns into pronounced with your lips in pona, because the P is pronounced with your lips. Another way is sound becoming devoiced, like in that earlier example of have to. Phonetically, voice is whether your vocal cords vibrate, like in v, or not like in f or t. If you want to determine if a sound is voiced or not, you can put your hand up to your throat and see if it vibrates. Now we've seen the irregular forms of infinitives, but what about the regular forms? There's another process called rhoticism. Rhoticism is where alveolar sounds become R's. Alveolar sounds are pronounced with the alveolar ridge. In English, there sounds like n, t, s, z. You at home, try and make those sounds and focus on where your tongue is. And focus where your tongue is. In Latin, S's between vowels turn into R. You're able to see this process in the word mus. In the genitive, mus becomes muris, with that S becoming an R between the U and the I. You're able to also see this in the word honos honoris. The same process happens where the S turns into the R between the O and the I. So that's how you get the regular infinitive. Just between the A and the E, the S turns into an R. Here are my works cited. There are so many interesting aspects to morphophonology and Proto-Indo-European, and I am happy to help if anyone wants to learn more or if they want any resource. Thank you so much for listening, or as the Proto-Europeans would have said, Teng mi tu.